There comes a moment in life when love, once vivid and intoxicating, begins to feel strangely hollow. Not through betrayal, not through argument or heartbreak, but through a subtle shift within. The words remain, the gestures linger, yet the spark that once ignited every thought, every glance, seems to have faded into something rehearsed, something distant. And in this silence, a question rises, a question that is both simple and devastating. Why does love no longer feel alive? This is not cynicism speaking. It is clarity, an awakening that strips away illusion and leaves only the raw architecture of emotion. It is the mind refusing to be deceived by the fantasy it once cradled so tenderly. To awaken in this way is not to harden the heart. It is to sharpen perception. And with this lucidity comes grief, quiet, patient, unavoidable. There is mourning for the self that once believed without doubt, that surrendered entirely to feeling. But innocence, like spring, is always temporary. It is a season, not a failure. What feels like loss is the mind correcting its own narrative, disentangling the self from a story that no longer serves it. In the early, fiery stages of love, the other appears illuminated, charged with meaning, as if they carry the answers to questions never asked. Every word, every silence, is heavy with significance. But the truth, as Jung might suggest, is that this brilliance rarely belongs to the other. It arises from within, from the unconscious mind projecting its hidden yearnings, its unmet needs, its buried fragments, onto another human being. The beloved becomes a canvas for the psyche, a vessel for the parts of ourselves we have yet to face. We are drawn not to the other, but to the reflection of wholeness we seek to reclaim. This is why love feels overwhelming at first. It is recognition, yes, but recognition of what we have not yet integrated within ourselves. It is projection disguised as connection, the psyche's unconscious attempt to heal its own fractures through another. And at first, the illusion comforts. It structures longing. It gives purpose to emptiness. It whispers that salvation has arrived. But reality, patient and inexorable, eventually intervenes. The image begins to crack. The brilliance dulls. And here, in the fissure of expectation, awakening begins. Awakening is never gentle. It is disillusion, not drama, a sober confrontation with what is rather than what was imagined. Suddenly, the other no longer shines through a veil of fantasy. Their flaws are undeniable, their contradictions apparent. The magic fades, replaced by the raw contours of humanity. This moment is not failure. It is perception recalibrating, ego trembling, identity tested. The fantasy was never love. It was projection, and to recognize this is both destabilizing and liberating. The grief that follows is not shameless. There is embarrassment, even humiliation, in realizing how fully we mistook imagination for truth. Yet this, too, is maturation. Without the collapse of illusion, love would remain a pattern, a repetition, a habit masquerading as evolution. The collapse opens a door, one that leads not to despair, but to presence. For the first time, the possibility arises to meet another without needing them to complete a story, without expecting them to embody a role carved by our unconscious desires. What appears as an ending is, in truth, a threshold. Much of what we exalt as passion is the voice of the shadow. The parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or disown, our fears, dependency, rage, vulnerability, and unmet longing, seek expression through relationships. It is why intensity often masquerades as depth, Why obsession is confused with devotion, why jealousy disguises itself as love, why emotional chaos feels sacred. The shadow feeds on projection, on drama, on urgency. Love, under its influence, becomes escape, a flight from loneliness, from emptiness, from unresolved wounds. We are not drawn to the other. We are drawn to the mirror they provide. The danger is subtle, but powerful. The shadow speaks with force. It feels authentic, urgent, undeniable. Yet intensity is not depth. Pressure masquerades as insight. And eventually, the weight it imposes breaks what it holds. Relationships built on unresolved shadow collapse, not because feeling is absent, but because it is unprocessed. Awakening occurs when responsibility is reclaimed inward, when the recognition emerges that no one else can heal what we refuse to confront within ourselves. Love becomes less anesthetic and more mirror. It challenges, it demands presence, it teaches the self. After awakening, love no longer arrives as an overwhelming current. It is quieter, steadier, almost unervingly calm. Calm is often mistaken for apathy, but in truth, it is rare presence. Love now emerges from wholeness, not need. There is no desperation, no unconscious contract, no fantasy of rescue. Two individuals meet as themselves, unmasked, undemanding, complete within their own boundaries. And in this state, intimacy is real. Honesty becomes the rhythm of connection. Emotional intoxication gives way to clarity. Depth is no longer a product of suffering, but of choice. This is why the awakened often appear selective or distant, not detached, but discerning. They no longer equate intensity with intimacy, nor struggle with depth as though it requires sacrifice. They see emotional dependency and refuse to anchor themselves in it. Love here is not survival. It is companionship. It does not bind. It accompanies. It does not consume. And paradoxically, only when love is no longer necessary for validation does it become powerful, enduring, and liberating. Solitude follows naturally, not because love has vanished, but because illusion has. When romantic narratives collapse, many connections dissolve alongside them. This solitude is not emptiness. It is integration, the process Jung described as individuation, the reconciliation of fragmented self into wholeness. Identity no longer hinges on being chosen or completed. The self becomes its own home. Silence replaces noise. And in this space, awareness blossoms. Falling is replaced by choosing. Passion yields to presence. Illusion gives way to truth. And yet, even here, caution remains. The awakened fear not being alone, but dissolving into another, losing themselves in the gravity of projection. Love becomes an active participation, a conscious engagement, rather than a surrender. The question shifts from, am I enough? To, can I remain whole while loving? They no longer chase drama or intensity. They sense desire rooted in unresolved wounds and hesitate, not from fear, but from refusal to repeat unconscious patterns. To love in this way is courage incarnate, presence without merging, care without control, openness without collapse. Love exists, but it does not dominate. It accompanies, it aligns, it resonates. The awakened do not stop loving. They stop pretending. They choose clarity over intoxication, honesty over illusion, balance over desperation. And when love appears now, it is conscious, grounded, and free. It is not necessary for survival, but welcomed as companionship. Rare as it is, this form of love endures. It does not promise eternity, It offers truth. It does not demand sacrifice, it invites choice. And in that choice lies freedom. If this journey into the hidden mechanics of love, awareness, and awakening spoke to you, if you felt the subtle truths beneath your own experiences stirring, then take this next step with us. Subscribe to Beyond the Twist, like this video, and stay here for more explorations into the mind's unseen architecture, the psychology of human behavior, and the stories that shape our hidden lives. Here, we unravel the layers, reveal the shadows, and confront the truths most avoid. There is always more waiting, just beyond the twist.